Okay, so in our last segment, we talked about single leg strengthening, where we were reaching, right, in and out of our base of support to work on joint mobility and strength so that I could run on unlevel surfaces and be safe. But let's now talk about the mobility piece. Okay, so that motion that happens at my foot as my heel rotates out to help me pronate and my forefoot rotates the opposite direction, that's a huge reaction that turns on a lot of hip. That's also a huge reaction that absorbs a lot of shock. If I don't have that, I have a greater tendency towards overuse injuries, okay? Stress fractures, low back pain, IT band, trochanteric bursitis, because basically every step I take, I'm slamming and hitting 10 times my body weight into that system, creating stress over time. The older you are, the more we're going to feel that stress. Not because we're old, but because our soft tissue is less supple, okay? We just don't have really good, fluid, mobile connective tissue like you do when you're 15. So we have to be more cognizant of, while I am running, do I have that flat tire feeling? Do I have that stiff, thunky, gross foot on one side? Because like we talked about last time, your body will default to the defective side. It's not going to try to push you beyond range you don't have because your brain's constantly trying to protect itself. So it will default to the short side, and you literally will have a less great running experience, a less great time because of that thick, stuck side. So I can actually work on that mobility, and as a runner, you should absolutely work on that mobility every single day. You also need to work on it if you're coming off of a long run or something that was a lot of hills, like up and down. Okay, because as I have to manage surfaces that have big incline up or down, or if I'm running on a camber, like the ground is on a tilt and I'm kind of here, like that soft tissue is trying to hang on for dear life more. And so we get an asymmetry or an unevenness on my right side compared to my left side, and we don't want that. We want both sides to work as well as they can together. Now, it does not matter if you've been injured or not. This is important mobility. I had a 35-year-old like recreational runner improve his 5K time by 1:30 simply by adding mid-tarsal and first ray mobilizations as part of his stretching every day. 1.5 minutes in a 5K is pretty big for just mobilizing your own foot joint. So what we want is, we want a mid-tarsal stretch. So I want to wring out my foot, okay? So I'm gonna go, heel is gonna go one way, forefoot's gonna go the other. I'm twisting them in opposite directions, and then I'm gonna twist them in opposite directions again. Okay, that looks pretty easy with my skeleton foot. If I do it in my deck chair, okay, I'm gonna cross my foot over my lap. Okay, I'm gonna grab onto my heel with one foot, my forefoot with the other foot, and I'm wringing it out. So my heel goes down, my forefoot goes up, my forefoot goes down, my heel goes up, okay? So I'm turning them in opposite directions. That helps that pronation load and helps turn on your hip when you're running and helps absorb shock, okay? So this, I have to have this motion to turn on my hip. Depending on your foot type, you may have more or less of that mobility. I have a high arched foot, okay? So my big toe sits on the ground. I have this rigid mid-tarsal joint. So I have less mid-tarsal mobility as a general rule, just because of my structure. So that high arched foot means that I don't have as much ankle mobility and I don't have as much big toe mobility, simply because of the structure of my foot. It also makes me a really lousy shock absorber, but it makes me really good at push off. So I could jump for days. I just should never land. So that high arch foot tends to be a good spring foot. It just doesn't do so well with landing. So in my history, I have an ACL tear on the left, a labral tear on the right, history of an ankle fracture on the left. Okay, these are all things that nobody told me stuff when I was in high school. Like, we just went out and did whatever. We didn't stretch, we didn't strength train, we worked out all the time. Like, in college, nobody paid attention to what we were doing. We just maxed out on weights, didn't stretch out. Cumulatively, that caught up with me. So my goal is to do better for you. And part of doing better for you is respecting your foot type. So if you have a high arch and you like to run, or you like to do things where you have to land, okay, jumping sports, volleyball, basketball, triple jump, long jump, high jump, like things where I'm loading and exploding, you have to respect your high arch and take care of it. So that mid-tarsal stretch, okay, I can sit and watch TV, I can text my friends, like I can FaceTime my grandma, like I can do all those things while I'm mobilizing my mid-tarsal joint. This is better done when it's warm, so coming out of the shower, if you have some heat on your foot, and you can crank as hard as you can tolerate, because your foot is managing your whole body weight. I guarantee you, I cannot create 200 pounds of force through my hands. But I can tell you, I feel a heck of a lot better once I do this after, or when I go run afterwards. So, 10, 15, 20 times each side before you're getting ready to go on a run, as I'm sitting in class and I'm getting ready to go to cross country, at the end of the day where I'm relaxing and drinking all my water to rehydrate, that's a huge and great stretch. The other thing we want to be aware of and take care of is your big toe. So my big toe, as I run, my foot collapses and I roll forward, and we want to roll off that big toe. In normal running, in walking, we need 30 to 50 degrees at first MTP extension, okay? In running, we need up to 70 for me to roll over and have a decent stride length. So if you go to move, and gotta get further away. Okay, if I go to roll over and I roll up through this big toe and you can't go anywhere, that's decreasing your stride length. It's putting more stress on your plantar fascia. It's decreasing your ankle mobility. It's decreasing your shock absorption. It's making it harder to use your abs and your hip flexor and your glute when you run. All of that from having a big toe that doesn't move well enough. How easy is it to stretch your big toe? So easy. Okay, so I can go back and I can do it sitting at night. I can do my mid-tarsal stretches and I can do my big toe stretches. Now, I want to have a flat foot, right? So pointing my toe gives it more slack, pulling my foot back, and then I take my big toe and pull it back, and pull it back, and pull it back, rhythmically pulling it back. Okay, the flatter my foot is, the bigger the stretch. Again, be respectful of your plantar fascia. The greatest, thickest part of the band of a plantar fascia runs to my big toe. So if we go cranking into that sucker, we don't want to irritate that. Okay, so sitting is the most passive, or I can kind of gauge the waters of where am I at and not using it or not overdoing it. Then I can transition to standing, one foot behind the other, weight through my big toe, roll forward and stretch, come back, roll forward and stretch. Now, we got to make sure my feet are in a line. Okay, if my feet are in a line and I roll over and stretch, that's going to stretch the right part. If that foot is rotated out to the side and I'm trying to roll over, that's not how my foot's working. Okay, my big toe has gotten so stiff that my body decided I'm going to rotate out to the side and instead crash through my arch to try to gain more mobility to take the step. So not having enough toe mobility can actually make your brain change the way you walk, change the way you run, and make you less efficient. That out toe position puts you at higher risk for stress fracture, meniscus tear, back pain, and hip issues. Okay, it also puts you at a higher risk for a labral tear over time. Now, be aware, some people structurally, okay, how they're put together, their foot rotates to the outside and they just live there. That's how their bones are put together, versus my body deciding to find a new way to walk because I'm restricted and trying to keep that toe forward. So if you're not sure or something feels sketchy, come see me and we'll look at you. because that foot being forward and foot being out makes a huge impact on how well I can use my hip and your potential for injury on that side. But mid-tarsal mobility, okay, wringing out my foot, big toe mobility, and then the last piece is really working on that entire posterior chain or the back side of me before I get up in the morning. So when you wake up, before your feet even touch the ground, I want you to kick your legs straight, pull your foot back, pull your toes back, okay? So kick, lift, pull your foot back, pull your toes back, and pump that foot 5 or 10 times with that leg as high as it can be over your head each side before you put weight on your foot. This is even more important after a big run day. If you ran a lot of mileage or a big jump in training compared to the day before, that laying down and pulling everything this direction, foot all the way back, helps mobilize that tissue. Now when I go to stand up, that tissue has some length to it, and it's not going to get immediately irritated as you try to walk to the bathroom in the morning. We've got to help lengthen it before we put 200 pounds of body weight on it. So that's a lot. I tend to ramble on. I apologize. I get really excited about this stuff. If you have any questions, reach out, and I'm happy to help.